This conference will now be recorded.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to probably our 40th or so weekly stakeholder conference call. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Wayne Mitchell with the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce. And first of all, I'm pleased to welcome all of you folks to this conference call today. I do want to let you know that the conference call will be recorded and that members of the media have been invited to participate. You can anticipate media stories as a result of this presentation today and the comments made by the participants today. I do want to let you know that we would like you to put your computers and phones on mute until we are ready for your presentation, questions, or comments a little further down the line. I'm pleased to welcome with us today Melanie Taylor, the CEO of Burke Mental Health Services. There is no issue probably as important as the issue of addressing mental health in so many different dimensions. And I'm pleased to welcome Melanie to the call here today representing Burke. She's worked for Burke since 1986. She served as Chief Administrative Officer from 2003 to 2018, and in 2018 was appointed to the position of Deputy CEO. In June of 2019, Melanie assumed the role of CEO and is responsible for the organization's planning, operations, budgeting, supervision, and monitoring of the organization. She holds a bachelor's degree in rehabilitation and a master's of science degree in business management, and recently received a master's degree from Texas A&M in public administration. She's a member of many professional societies, and I'm pleased to welcome Melanie Taylor as our featured presenter this morning. Good morning, Melanie.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me today, and thanks to all of you virtually who are interested in our center. To start with, it's kind of hard to talk about the present without sharing a little of the past. I'm going to try to make this PowerPoint presentation work, so bear with me. I don't know if it's going to work. And it's not working. Hold on just 1 minute. Let's see if I can. I'm not sure. Okay, here we go. So, I always think that one day this is going to be a question on Jeopardy or on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and we're going to know this because I try to tell everybody this. But in 1963, the mental health, the Community Mental Health Centers Act was the very last piece of legislation signed by President John F. Kennedy prior to his assassination. So if you're ever on Jeopardy and those questions asked, you're now going to know the answer to that question. But due to the Vietnam War and other economic crises, there was no funding for community health centers. So the legislation was there, but there was no funding. In the early 70s, thanks to efforts by people like Ward or Burke, who was a tireless advocate for the community mental health system, community centers in Texas were created and also funded. So in 1974, Burke was created. And we were originally known, for some of you that's been around a while, as DP's Texas Mental Health and Mental Retardation. We later changed our name to Burke to honor Mr. Burke and his wife Annabelle for their dedication and their commitment to our center. So Burke is actually governed by the area's county's commissioners courts. They appoint a board member to help run our center. And the whole purpose of the community centers is to make community care possible for the citizens of our region, to try to prevent people from going into to more residential settings, let people live as normal as possible in the community. So Burke serves 12 counties. We cover over 10,000 square miles. And David Kozad, who I see is present at our meeting today, he serves on our board of trustees as the representative of Nacogdoches County. And he also is the board secretary. Recently, Sheriff Jason Bridges was elected by the sheriffs of our counties to represent the above median population counties, we have them divided into two parts. The lower median, half of it is lower median, half of it's the higher median. And he was elected by the sheriffs to represent them as an ex officio board member to our board. So this slide just always brings back to me how I feel about a lot of things since I started work at Burke. But you've probably heard the old saying that if you that only cooked spaghetti sticks to the wall. So to know if it's really cooked, you throw it against the wall, and if it sticks, then it's done. So I think that in our business, even in the early years and even recently, that we can kind of draw upon this and kind of realize that sometimes we're just throwing spaghetti against the wall. We try things, if they don't work, if it's not fully cooked, then we go back and we try again. And so I really, to me, this has always stuck out as a representation of us trying to do our best and not sticking to the same old thing no matter what. If it doesn't stick and it doesn't work, we keep trying. So this is just a capsule of FY20 in review for Burke. As you can tell from this slide, we've served close to 13,000 unduplicated folks. We made over 228,000 individual contacts, and we have 602 employees right now. This amounts to over 280,000 hours, or about 774 hours of work provided per day in our center. So this is just a kind of a little bit of information about our services. You can go to myburke.org to get more information about each category. But we provide early childhood intervention. We provide primary care. We feel like that if the whole person, both their physical and mental health, is taken care of, we can serve them better. We provide services to people with developmental disabilities. We provide crisis services, and we can provide mental health outpatient services. So this is just kind of a breakdown of the array of services we provide. And this is our funding by this division across the center. So here is Nacogdoches County data. Last year in Nacogdoches County alone, we served over 2,500 individuals, and that's 20% of our total. I mean, it kind of was broke down like this, similar to our whole center. The outpatient, 67%, 21%. You can see that for yourself. I won't read it to you, but employees, we have 144 employees who live in Nacogdoches. So that's 24% of the Burke total. So I thought, since this is a Nacogdoches County Chamber meeting, you might find some of those statistics interesting. So I just to briefly talk about a part of Burke that we established in 2006 is the Rural East Texas Health Network. We call it RETHN. And the purpose of this RETHN was to maintain a line of communication between stakeholders within our counties. We meet each quarter in each county, and a lot of you on this call are part of that meeting, but we want our stakeholders, we want our hospital ERs, our law enforcement, our educators that are in the community, anyone that's interested in the mental health delivery system to attend these meetings. And we talk about specific issues in this meeting. We may talk about a crisis case that just happened, or we may talk about in general, what can we do as a group to get the right mental health services in your area so that we can alleviate the pressure from all around, especially our law enforcement, our ERs. We have a success story that back over 10 years ago now, it seems like it was just yesterday, this group in all of our counties through these meetings came together and collaborated, and we built a brick and mortar building to house temporarily mental health emergency crisis patients who are not in such a crisis that they need state or private hospitalization, but where we can get them into a facility and try to provide the right amount of care so they can get back in the community as possible. That has been a very successful collaboration, and our goal is to keep looking as we have these meetings for different opportunities that can certainly help alleviate the stress of mental illness in our communities. So if you're interested in joining part of these meetings, just at the end, I'll give you my contact information. You can reach out to us. So in talking about Burke services, I talked a little bit about our funding, but about a little over 10 years ago, we were given the opportunity from a federal level to participate in Medicaid transformation, which is a delivery system report payment system. As you can see from this slide, the bottom piece, this program brings $6 million a year to Burke alone. This is a project-based payment system, and we have been able to use this money to expand services, to provide greater access, to provide primary care to our consumers, and we do spend a lot of this money on some of our crisis services that are unfunded by the state. Bad news is this waiver program as it is will be ending this September of 2021. And but we've got exciting news because there was a waiver extension granted by the federal government. Now the difference is that this is no longer a project-based program. This is program based on actual services provided. It's a 10-year extension of the grant, and as I said before, we get $6 million a year from the previous transformation waiver. The entire mental health system in Texas gets $2.5 billion to Texas. So if this program ended without this extension, we would certainly see a big change in mental health service delivery in Texas. But so this is very exciting news. It certainly calms our nerves. It certainly helps with our current legislative issues. And we would have just experienced this severe losses in capacity and in needed services. But this new pool is only for Medicaid. Burke only serves close to 40% of people with Medicaid. The rest are uninsured. So while this will help, it doesn't solve our whole issue, but it certainly makes a big difference in losing the entire $6 million. But I know that coming from your communities, crisis services seems to be the primary issue in your communities. When someone is in a crisis, whether they're in school, whether they're out in the community, it affects our communities. It affects the law enforcement, it affects our jails, our hospital ERs. And so when we do have those RETHM meetings that I mentioned before, when we do get together, it seems like crisis is the most common theme. That's what everybody wants to talk about. We currently use the district funds to help pay for our inpatient psychiatric treatment. Burke gets funded for a little over 6 beds a day of private psychiatric hospitals. We need about 10 beds a day on a normal year. With COVID, we need even more than that. We've had a 30% increase in the need for crisis private psychiatric beds since COVID started. So, a part of my presentation, we're talking about our legislative priorities. And so what we are really going to do is urge the continued support to our legislatures for state hospitalization construction and to approve any budgetary item that will increase funding for this type of service. Another program we provide at Burke, and we've been able to do it in the former district program that ends in September, is courtesy transportation for law enforcement. Sometimes it takes 2 hours to get to a private psychiatric hospital and then 2 hours back. Previously, our law enforcement, they're legislatively mandated to provide this transportation. So you get in some of your small communities and you have, maybe 2 officers on duty at a time, or even 3 or 4. And when one of them has to leave and drive all the way to a private hospital, drive all the way back, and that means they're not out patrolling the streets and taking care of the community. So Burke created a courtesy transportation. We can't always guarantee we can provide it, but we try to provide where we hire these law enforcement folks who are not working at the time, they're off duty for whatever reason, to provide that transportation to try to help your community, to keep your law enforcement people where they need to be. This funding is going to go away. And the new funding will not be able to pay for that. So we're going to be coming up in our RETHM meetings. We're going to be looking at options and what can we do, because our goal is to help our consumers and serve them in the best way we can. And that's not sitting in the jail or the hospital ER until we can get them where they need to be. So again, we don't know the answers, but we're going to throw that spaghetti against the wall until we can make it stick. And that's what we'll be doing over the next few months. So on the legislative priorities, it's no surprise that the COVID pandemic has created big challenges for our legislatures. Last fall, the picture was so bleak. They were predicting over a $6 billion deficit. But today, it's not near as bleak. They're predicting less than $1 billion, which to me still sounds enormous, but compared to $6 billion, I guess $1 billion is not as much. So we're really going to, we know we're probably not going to get a lot of new services. No one is. But so we're asking the legislature, just do no harm, maintain our base appropriations, but at the same time, continue support, as I said earlier, for the state hospital renovation so that we can get more private psychiatric beds or public psychiatric beds. And then another issue that with COVID, we've been able to use video and or audio technology to reach our consumers. What we found out is that this has really been a benefit. Probably a lot of you have seen your own doctor via video, and we like it. We don't like going and sitting in an office and waiting on our turn. So we're really going to advocate that the legislature allows the provider, whether it's private, public health, physical health, mental health, that we allow the provider and the consumer of that service to determine the mode of service delivery that best meets their needs. I know if I get a vote, I want to continue my video appointments with my doctor. So this helps though the transportation in our rural communities. We know that's a problem. So, that's kind of our priorities for this year. We're not asking, for a whole lot. And normally we do go in and we ask for additional funding. But this year with our budget issues with the state, our legislatures are going to have a tough job. And so we just want them to do no harm. This next slide, I had at the beginning of the slideshow because I wanted to kind of share, when I started in the 80s, how I felt. I was only at work 30 days before they put me on the crisis call rotation. So here I am, I don't know anything, I'm right out of college, and I have to start answering this crisis call. So here's an example. I'm answering this call. Well, within about 2 or 3 minutes, here I am. Then I realized that actually that still happens today. That wasn't just 30 years ago. I may have an email or maybe a cell phone, but there's no doubt. Last year when we started hearing about the COVID pandemic, this was me. I read that email and thought, oh well, and then within 2 minutes I thought, oh my goodness, we are essential providers. We have to be at work. We've got to figure this out. And so I tend to, those 2 slides tend to represent my life quite often. But I do believe that that there are COVID silver linings. I'm not going to talk a lot about COVID. 2020 is a year we will never forget. We've seen this pandemic take its toll on all of our citizens, on all of us, and it's certainly impacted our communities and the mental health needs of our communities. But I firmly believe that you cannot grow or improve without change. And whether we decide to change ourselves or whether it's forced on us through something like this COVID pandemic. So instead of dwelling on the negative, I'd like to look at the silver lining. And I think COVID has created a few. I've seen our Burke staff show up, step up, and be the true essential workers they are. You know, we've seen this in the hospitals. We've just seen this everywhere. We've seen people really show up and do their jobs. You know, there's so much negative press, you know, in the media with all the things that's going on in the world. But I do believe if we look around us in our communities, you know, we've seen the power of community. We weren't prepared for these widespread disruptions. I was a new CEO. I thought I'd been with Burke 30 years. I really thought, oh, I have this down. I can handle this. But no one was prepared for this pandemic. And but I think we can take comfort in knowing that our communities pulled together. We've compromised, we've understood each other, and we've supported each other. And so for that, I'm just thankful that I'm part of all these communities like you guys out there, that I know that we can all work together and get things done. So finally, here's my information. If you need to talk, if you want to ask questions, you know, you can reach me by phone, you can reach me by email, just however you want to. And once again, thank you for taking the time to listen to talk about Burke.
And thank you, Melanie, and thank you for the very important role you play in mental health services here in East Texas. We realize how busy you are, and we appreciate that you took time out of your busy day to be a part of this. Any questions of Ms. Taylor? Melanie, do you anticipate any potential for a decrease in funding this year? Or I know you want to hold your own based on that slide.
You know, the biggest issue I think that we'll have is even when we hold our own, even if we don't get a decrease, you know, our costs still go up each year. You know, we have cost in employee costs, just cost of living in general. So even though we may not even get a decrease, we will still have challenges with the, you know, trying to keep our current budget running through the next few years. But I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, and I'm sure we all are out there that are depending on state revenue.
And the only other question is, how do you handle the uninsured? That I suspect a fair percentage of your clients are uninsured. How do you handle that?
We receive state general revenue that helps provide for the uninsured. We provide all of our services. We provide the same, no matter whether you have insurance or not. It doesn't matter when you present to our center. We provide services based on the needs of the consumer, not based on their payer source. But we do get general revenue that helps pay for that. And this new district program that I mentioned will have some type of charity pool similar to how hospitals get their uncompensated care that will hopefully help kind of alleviate that gap.
That's great. Well, I will let you know that the Chamber is in the process of finalizing our legislative priorities for the session, and certainly mental health is one of those issues that will not go away. And we'll do our best to advocate on behalf of Burke and the services you folks provide, because it does impact so many elements of our community. And again, thank you for joining us today, Melanie.
Could I mention one thing, please?
You may.
Could I mention one thing?
Absolutely.
Burke has a lot of different partners and relationships in the communities throughout Deep East Texas. Law enforcement and criminal justice for sure. The area hospitals are also critical partners. But what's particularly important that relates to us here in Nacogdoches is the relationship with Stephen F. Austin State University. Over the years, there's been a lot of partnership with Stephen F. Austin State University, many times writing grants, calling upon expertise, partnering with workshops and seminars, and I'm sure all that will continue in the future. But also know that really the vast majority of credentialed personnel with Burke comes out of Stephen F. Austin State University. So it is and will continue to be a critical partner.
David, thank you for sharing and reminding us that, and we really appreciate that. There's so many facets of this community that are impacted by mental health issues, and certainly SFA is a great resource and partner to help address these challenging times, especially with the impact of COVID. So thanks for pointing that out, David.
Wayne, can I ask a quick question?
You may, Donna.
I was just wondering, what is the last story I did with you guys was dealing with children. What is the percentage of children that you're helping, and how is the video conferencing going with them? The last I heard, it was very challenging to maintain a child's attention through your video conferencing.
Yes, there's no doubt that we've seen challenges. That's why our staff are choosing. Not all of our services are being done via video or audio. We are still actually going out and seeing people face to face as needed. We find that our high school kids are okay because that's kind of their mode of delivery. They're always on their iPhones or on their smartphones. But the younger ones, especially 6th grade and down, we do have challenges. So for those folks, we still have workers who are going out and seeing these folks face to face. And let's see, I have and Kenny, you may have that. I have my notes on the breakdown of kids somewhere.
I believe it's about 20% of our clients are under 18.
Melanie, you can send those numbers to me. I don't want to take up any more of the time here.
About 22%. We served over 2,800 kids last year that were under 18.
Yeah, I knew it was a large number. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And again, thank you, Melanie, very much for that great presentation and update. And everybody's rooting for you and your agency.
Thank you.
I'm pleased to welcome this morning the city manager of the city of Nacogdoches, Mario Canizares. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Wayne. Hope everyone's doing well. We are prepping for next week's council meeting. I can report that next Tuesday since it'll be ahead of the meeting. But really what we're working on this week is just kind of getting sort of prepared for the potential inclement weather that may not happen this weekend or early next week. So the weather forecast keeps changing on us. So we're prepping, then we're unprepping. And so, but no, we'll be ready in case any freezing weather hits. Our street crews will be ready to deploy sand, et cetera, across streets and overpasses. But we'll be ready for it. Otherwise, it's been fairly quiet, and look forward for a good week.
Well, we'll hope that all that sand will stay where it is, Mario, and that you won't have to be out on the streets with an ice condition this next weekend. So,
yep. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm pleased to welcome the president and CEO of the Nacogdoches Economic Development Corporation. Good morning, Larissa Philpott.
Hi, good morning, Wayne. The governor's office, and Betty may cover this here in a minute, so I apologize, Betty, if I'm stealing your thunder. The governor's office just announced a rent relief program that you can apply for to both renters can apply as well as landlords can apply on behalf of their renters, which would offer assistance for 3 months of retroactive past due rent and utility expenses, current and 3 months forward. So that's a big chunk that renters and landlords can apply for assistance. It is based on income. It is based on, you have to be at 80% of the area median family income. Since nobody knows that off the top of their head, I'm gonna put a link here in the screen, and I see Mary Mochniak and Gary Lee. I'm going to send both of you this directly so that you can share it with your tenants. I mean, with your landlord friends. But it does prioritize the very low income folks first, but then can offer assistance to people who are up to 80% of the area median family income. And it is $1 billion program. So there's a lot of money there to help our folks who are having trouble paying utilities and rent. So that's all I have today.
Thank you, Larissa. Any questions, Larissa? Larissa, I do want to let you know that I appreciate you covering that because Betty unfortunately had a conflict this morning and couldn't join
Great.
us.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to put these links in the chat box right now.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I'm pleased to welcome the director of the Nacogdoches Convention and Visitors Bureau, my great colleague, Sherry Morgan. Good morning, Sherry.
Good morning, Wayne. Good morning, friends. I wanted to talk a little bit today about what the recovery for hospitality is going to look like, or is projected to look like, as well as just some points to ponder as that process begins. So increased leisure travel that we're seeing as a result of the more widespread vaccinations and just a general ease that's washing over the country. Even with that increased travel in the second half of the year, it's not going to save our hotel partners from a tough 2021, because corporate travel, which accounts for 60 to 65% of all of the revenue in the industry, is expected to remain depressed and not fully come back to 2019 levels until 2025. So it'll be one of the last travel niches to recover from all of this. Leisure tourism should be back to those 2019 levels. 2024 is what industry professionals are projecting. But it's important to remember that these projections are largely based on the belief that when business rebounds, it will maintain its prior business models. But a key question to ask is, now that so many businesses have worked out virtual workarounds, which negate the need to physically travel, how many of those businesses will actually return to those past practices? So there's a lot still unknown out there that could greatly impact the recovery efforts for our hospitality friends and partners. And I think just our day-to-day existence, our daily lives will forever be changed in just how we navigate through as individuals, as businesses, as community partners. So it's important to think about that as we can, and think about our role to affect change one way or the other to assist in that. As tough as the outlook appears, the industry still is trying to maintain hope. There is the potential that this could be much like the social tone of the Roaring '20s, where there's all this pent-up demand, and that's certainly, what a lot of people are predicting is going to happen, that people that are more accustomed to traveling more frequently have not been able to, and so once they get the green light, they're going to just come back and make up for lost time, so to speak. And then the other caveat to consider is that there's more money in banks waiting to be spent, because we've been at home and Amazon has been frequent visitors at our doorstep, and we've bought everything. We have completed our purchase of Amazon's offerings of everything that we need. But what we couldn't have are the experiences that we get when we travel. And so once the vaccinations hit on a more widespread level, that will allow us certainly to begin to explore the possibility of having those experiences again, and hopefully opening up the floodgates. And always as a reminder, why it's important that hospitality and tourism rebounds and finds a recovery at some point. Tourism is a huge economic driver in general, and specifically for our community of Nacogdoches. The governor's office estimates that in 2019, roughly $2.7 million found its way into our general fund based on direct traveler spending. So that's all that I have. Our visitor staff, Visit NAC staff over here is continuing to extend greetings and warm welcomes to those people that are stepping out and making the most. And we are, fingers crossed, with this freeze, it won't impact our azalea season. Please, 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 that's our busiest time of the year. So if we all just want to give a little pause and speak to the deity of your choosing, and throw up a prayer for that. We've got a drive-in movie this weekend too. You've got mail out at the airport. Bundle up. Stay safe, and thanks for all that you do. Bye.
Thank you, Sherry, for that update. And you'll be pleased to know I did go on my first trip in a while. I went to Lufkin yesterday. So it was really cool to get out of town for a moment. So for social services this morning, I'm pleased to welcome the president and CEO of the Nacogdoches United Way, Nacogdoches Area United Way, Gary Lee Ashcraft.
And here I am. I like that, Sherry, the deity of your choice. Gonna report on something, if I can find my notes. Right now, we're working on a program called Cornerstone, which I'm trying to get wheels under. And that program is a branding program. It usually comes out of the marketing budget. Saying this here because there's a bunch of you in the room, and it pays for the very low overhead of this United Way. United Way Worldwide requires that we stay below 25%, and Caroline Ellen Garner keeps it way under that, like 16%. I need a raise, Caroline, but not coming. Anyway, want to let you know that Ronnie Henson and Richard Shade, co-leaders of the, Sherry, I like this, of the Do Dat Barbecue. This is so exciting. We're positive. We feel like we'll be good by April 24th, which is a Saturday. We have booked the expo. I'm finishing the contract today and sending it back to Anita and her folks. And we will be saying more about that as we approach that time. So Do Dat is up and running. It's already being planned. I want to let you know, kudos to Caroline. She has revived over the past several years the program. This is kind of hard work. It's called the Emergency Food and Shelter Program. I dropped it many years ago because I don't like hard work. But she has, in doing that, it has meant a substantial amount of money each year paid to people like Love Inc. and Hope and others that they need. It's additional money this beyond our funding efforts, campaign and that kind of thing. So really proud of her for staying on that. She's got it under control, and we're excited to do that, and so are the agencies that receive the extra additional funding. I'll end it by saying that Kenny Rena, who is the chair this year of our campaign, she's past chair from last year. I thought she'd be tired, but she said, hey, I like that campaign stuff, so I'm going to take that on. The cool thing about Kenny is she's organized, and she's organizing teams to get ready to, sometime in August, we'll kick off, hopefully live, and we'll have another outstanding campaign as we did this year. By the grace of deities, we were able to reach our goal of 300,000, which we totally didn't expect at all. When we started with COVID, some of y'all with hospitals and schools less told me don't look for a campaign. And excuse me, and y'all did a great job. Thank you. I'm going to get some water. That's it, Wayne.
Thank you, Gary Lee. Appreciate that update. I don't think Nancy Wyndham is with us this morning. Just want to double check. But I'm pleased to see Jessica Sowell, our Main Street Manager, Communications Director, and to give us an update this morning. Good morning, Jessica.
Good morning. How are y'all?
So a quick COVID update. I know there's been a lot of talk in the news and, all the news about Lufkin becoming a hub and things like that, which I honestly don't have a lot of information on. Things like that are decided at the state level and are usually released to the public and to the local officials about the same time. But a few quick reminders. There is going to be a second dose shot clinic at the Nacogdoches Expo on February 11th. That is for people that received their first dose at the Expo Center on January 14th. If you received your first dose January 14th at the Expo, you'll show up February 11th at the Expo at the same time as your initial appointment. We don't anticipate having any additional doses, any extra shots, because these are just for people that have already received that first dose. So we'll post on social media a few reminders about that. It'll be in the Daily Sentinel. So I just want to remind people about that. Also, we still have our COVID call lineup. It's the joint call center between the city and the county. It's the 468-4787. And as a reminder, that is an information only line. The rumors got out of hand the other day that people could call that number and receive a vaccine or receive an appointment, and that's just not the case. There are currently no vaccine waiting list or ways to get on that for people to call. So our 468-4787 is our information line. We're happy to guide you through kind of the process of signing up with the hub or give you recommendations on talking to your provider, but we can't sign you up for a vaccine there. We had, I think, 100 calls by 11 o'clock yesterday. People wanting to know about the Lufkin Hub, wanting to know about the allocations for week 9, which were released Friday afternoon. There will be some vaccines coming to town, which is great. Both hospitals are slated to get some, plus other providers. Just as a reminder, the city and county, we have no say over where these vaccines go, and the city and county don't receive vaccines directly. We do partner with organizations like the hospital or like Berkshire Brothers that if they have a lot of vaccines to get out, we're happy to help them either with the marketing, with volunteers, with organization, offering them places to do that. So we are partnering with those organizations, but the city and the county is not administering those vaccine doses. We of course have our COVID dashboard that we update, and then we update it with information from the state as well. So that will continue. And that's kind of what we have right now. We'll have more information to come about the Lufkin Hub once we receive it. But we will update on that hopefully next week as well.
Jessica, just one question. What is the percentage right now that we're dealing with over 15%?
Of the hospital rate?
Yes.
I don't know offhand, but I can look it up real fast because DSHS keeps a track of that and updates it daily, which is great. So I can find that on the website and I can report back to you, or I can drop it in the chat box, either one.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any questions of Jessica? Well, I'm pleased to see Les Linebarger, our Communications Director for the Nacogdoches Independent School District. Good morning, Les.
Good morning, Wayne. It's good to see you. It's good to see all of you. I mentioned last week about our swim team's continued run of district championships, and over this past weekend at the regional meet in Louisville, 5 members of the men's team earned berths in the state swimming and diving competition that will be held later this month. The men's team won the 200-yard freestyle relay and finished second in the 400-yard freestyle relay. And overall, both the men's and women's teams finished third in the overall standings at the regional competition. And Wayne, NISD's hearts are heavy right now following the passing last week of former Golden Dragon Marching Band director Glenn Wells. You know, Mr. Wells retired in 2018 after spending 28 years with the district, including the final 18 as head band director. And under Mr. Wells' leadership, the NHS band extended its long run of first division performances in marching contests. And in fact, last fall, NHS registered its 40th top rating since 1980, something Mr. Wells had a hand in. Mr. Wells was still invested in the band program, helping out Jacob Weems, his former student, who is now the band's director, by working with student performers in smaller groups. Needless to say, Mr. Wells will be greatly missed in the band program and throughout Nacogdoches ISD. Wayne, that's all I have for today.
Thank you for sharing that, and we certainly sympathize with the loss and of Mr. Wells and all he contributed to Nacogdoches High School. So thank you, Les. I'm going to open it up. Any questions or any comments by anybody on the call this morning?
Wayne, it's Mary. And I want to mention Operation Thank You is next Wednesday. And rather than going out and delivering the packets to the local businesses, the members of the chamber, we are going to register teams of 5. You go on the website for the Chamber of Commerce and sign up your team, and we'll make phone calls at the chamber office.
It's a wonderful opportunity to meet a lot of new folks and network with folks, and at the same time have a little bit of fun. We're going to make it a fun event. And again, thank you, Mary, for sharing that. We urge you folks to put together a team of 5, and we'll give you a time slot. It'll probably be no more than an hour and a half, 90 to an hour and a half, and you'll enjoy yourself. I appreciate that. Do want to let you know that we are in the planning stages for the Blueberry Festival. Some folks have asked about the status of that. We'll have an announcement for that hopefully in the next week or so. Eggs and Issues, which will be on the 25th of the month, will feature Representative Travis Clardy and Senator Robert Nichols to kind of give us an update on the legislative process and what's going on at the legislature. Any other comments? If not, again, thank you, Melanie, for joining us today and being our featured presenter and bringing us up to speed on the mental health climate here in East Texas. I do want to thank all of you folks for joining us and all of our presenters here today, and we hope you have a happy and prosperous week. And this concludes the call.